IVF can be confusing. If you're getting ready to start your first IVF cycle, or you're trying again, you're doing egg freezing or a second IVF cycle, here are some common mistakes I want my patients to avoid in order to improve their outcomes. So get your notebooks out and write these down so you do not make these common IVF medication mistakes. I'm Dr. Lora Shahine. I'm a double board certified OBGYN and reproductive endocrinologist helping people with IVF and avoiding mistakes for almost 20 years. And I really want to help you through this process. I'm so glad you found this channel. Be sure and subscribe so you get my weekly videos all about reproductive health. Got playlists here on PCOS, endometriosis, IVF. We've got a whole playlist here on IVF, period health, male factor fertility. I really love educating. So if you subscribe, you're going to get my weekly video all about fertility. Now, for many of my patients, IVF is the first time someone has ever been a medical patient. There is a lot of appointments. There's a lot of things to remember, and especially the medications. There's mixing. There's lots of different medications. You're having to give them to yourself. There are so many places to make errors that I want to make sure that you avoid these common mistakes so you can optimize your success for your IVF stimulation cycle. It's stressful enough to have difficulty getting pregnant or going through this process. And so I want to make sure that you get this information. So stick around to the end of the video where I give you 3 important top tips to help you be successful. Now let's go over those 5 mistakes. Mistake number 1, not having the medications or the supplies that you need to start your cycle. You've got to order your medications on time. You've got to make sure that they arrive, and I would have them a couple of days before you're supposed to start. You've got to check and recheck. It is so overwhelming to get this huge box from the pharmacy. It's often got multiple different medications. It's got multiple different syringes and alcohol pads and a needle disposal box. Like, there's so much information in there. Sometimes it's overwhelming and people just want to keep that box closed, put it on a shelf, and just deal with it later. But I cannot tell you how many of my patients or other patients in the practice give me a call the night they are supposed to start their stimulation medication, freaking out because they realize they don't have what they need, whether it's the wrong needle or it's the wrong medication. And so don't make that mistake. Order the medications so they come a couple of days before you're supposed to start. And when you open that box, get the packing slip out and double, triple check that what is on the packing list is actually in the box. Humans are filling up the box and filling that order. And sometimes humans make mistakes, and you don't want to not have what you need because someone put the wrong stuff in the box to send to you. Some pharmacies have an incredible service where they do an unboxing service. So you can actually schedule an appointment to get a pharmacist or someone to help you on the phone when you receive that shipment so they can unpack it with you. And just having that extra person, that hand to hold, is so important because sometimes a medication that's on your calendar has a different name than what your insurance company or your pharmacy had and shipped to you. And it could be the exact same medication. It could be interchangeable. But if you don't know that, that can be really, really confusing. So don't make assumptions. Unpack the box early, double, triple check what you get. And if you have questions or you don't have exactly what you think you need, don't make assumptions. Call your nurse, call the pharmacist, and make sure you have what you need in order to start your IVF stimulation. Mistake number 2, not having the medications or the supplies that you need in order to finish your stimulation process. So it's not uncommon for people to need to refill medications as they're going through the IVF cycle. As a physician and as a clinic, we try not to over order medications because you cannot give them back. There's no return policy to a pharmacy. Even if you haven't opened the medication, they don't take it back because they can't know for sure that the medications were handled properly and they don't want to re-give it to another patient. So in general, most of the time, patients don't try to over-order meds, but you've got to keep track as you're going through your stimulation cycle and ask your team, hey, how many more days of medications do you think I need? Pay attention to weekends where you might not be able to get medications shipped to you. Pay attention to holidays, especially long weekends when we have Labor Day, when we have Memorial Day. I think to myself, like, oh gosh, I really want to make sure that all the patients don't run out of meds on Sunday because they can't get a shipment until Tuesday. So just pay attention, keep track as you're going through, and have a plan with your team on when and if you might need to order refills of your medication. You don't want to run out and not have what you need. Mistake number 3, taking the wrong medication. I cannot tell you how many times this has happened, and you think to yourself, oh my gosh, how could this happen? But I remind myself, hey, I was an IVF patient. And even as an IVF doctor, as a patient, you've got the meds in front of you, you're watching the videos over and over again. It's overwhelming and it can get confusing. And most people are not in the medical field and are not familiar with medications. And sometimes it's the first time they've ever even taken prescription medication. So you just have to be patient with yourself and realize that it is really easy to make mistakes. So many medications that come in the box, you really want to make sure that you're taking what you're supposed to. So I've had patients confuse medications. They see a word with P and they think that that's what they're supposed to be taking, when really Pregnal is a type of trigger shot, but they actually gave themselves progesterone because it had a P and they just got confused and they thought that that's what they needed. And if you know anything about the medications with IVF, if you don't take your trigger shot, that can be a disaster for the entire cycle. So be careful when you get your medications. There's often different medications at different stages. And so what I tell people is to really pay attention to their calendar and only have the medications in easy access for what you're actually using. So for example, if someone's doing a fresh embryo transfer, they're going to start progesterone a couple of days after the retrieval. But you don't need progesterone before the egg retrieval. So just kind of put that away. You don't want to accidentally make a mistake and take progesterone before you need it. And pay attention to your calendar. If you start something new, like sometimes people will just take stimulation medication and a couple of days into their stimulation cycle, they'll add a medication like an antagonist. And if something changes, get a new calendar from your team. If the dose of your medications changes, get a new calendar from your team. Like kind of keep up and make sure that you're taking every day what you are supposed to, and double and triple check, make no assumptions, and really, really make sure that you're taking the correct medication at the correct time. Mistake number 4 is wasting medication. That medication is like liquid gold. It's, hundreds of dollars. That stimulation medication, especially like Gonal F or Follistim or brand names, Menopur, those things are so expensive. And I've had patients who use a new pen or a new vial every single night. And we have it on our information form. We try to verbally tell everybody, but sometimes we miss. You can actually use the little bit of leftover medication in these vials and combine them to give yourself another day or 2 of meds. This medication is so expensive. You don't usually have to open up a pen every single day, unless it depends on what dose you're taking. And if you're not taking the whole pen, save it and ask your nurses how you can use up the leftover medication. So you might not have to reorder or refill the medications. You might have what you need. So don't make that mistake. Save cost by making sure you use absolutely everything that you have. Mistake number 5 is injecting the wrong thing. Now, this is common when people are mixing medications. So, for example, Menopur is a stimulation medication that comes in a powder. And when you open up the box, you have a powder and a diluent or a liquid. And you've got to put the liquid in with the powder, mix it, and then take that mixed medication out, and that's what you inject. Same thing for the trigger shot. If you're taking Novarel, Pregnal, or an HCG trigger shot, it often comes with a powder and a diluent. And so what I've seen people do, sometimes is after they take some of the diluent out of the bottle and put it in the bottle with the powder and mix it, they get distracted. Something changes on TV, the phone rings, an alarm goes off, like something happens and they get confused and they end up drawing from the diluent, from the empty solution, the mixing solution, not the solution with the medication. And they're just injecting no medication, but just the mixing solution. So if you are mixing medications after you put what you need in the vial with the powder, throw away the diluent. Don't even keep it on the table. Just get rid of it. Like, don't even want it around. You can get distracted and people can make mistakes. And so just get into that habit of mixing, and then the diluent, the mixing liquid, if there's any left over, throw it away. I don't want you to make this mistake. Those are my 5 mistakes that I don't want you to make. Mistake number 1 is not having the medications you need to start on time. Mistake number 2 is not having the medications you need in order to finish your cycle. Mistake number 3 is taking the wrong medications. Be sure. Mistake number 4 is saving costs by using every single drop of that stimulation medication, using leftovers, and not assuming that you need a new pen or a new vial every single night. Mistake number 5 is injecting the mixing solution or the diluent and not the actual medication. So after you mix the powder, throw away the extra mixing solution. That's not medication. That is not valuable. That medication, that powder that you just mixed, is very valuable. Now let's get to my 3 tips. This is another way to help you be successful on your IVF cycle. Tip number 1, make no assumptions. Don't be confused. Don't assume that a certain medication, if it sounds a little bit different, is probably what you're supposed to be taking. Ask questions. Call the pharmacy. Call your nurse. Do not make assumptions. Tip number 2, keep the meds that you need now in front of you, like in the place in the fridge that you need them, or if they don't need to be refrigerated, in the cabinet where you need them. Any meds that you might need in the future, even like your trigger medication or progesterone, if you're going to be taking that later, keep it separate. You just don't want to mistakenly take the wrong medication when you don't need it. Tip number 3, set reminders. Do not rely on your memory. This is getting harder and harder for me. For medications, set a reminder every single day. 7 a.m. reminder, take meds. 7 p.m. reminder, take meds. Just don't assume. Have a paper calendar out in the kitchen if that's where you're keeping your meds. Cross off when you're taking meds, but also put reminders in your phone, because it is just so easy to get confused, to get distracted with the day. And I've absolutely had people call me the next day in a panic and say, I forgot to take my stimulation meds last night. I don't know how I did it, Dr. Shahine. I know this is the most important thing, but I just forgot. It's not a part of my regular routine. And so set reminders, do whatever you have to do, put a sticky note in the bathroom mirror so when you're brushing your teeth, you don't forget to take your meds. I hope this was helpful and valuable. Like this video if you learned something, comment with questions that you have. Be sure and subscribe to this channel so you get my weekly video all about fertility and reproductive health. I will see you next week. And until then, wishing you love, luck, and pineapples.